Guess I'm the first one here. I like that. You look like you just had your ass handed to you.
Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Mont, and this is my review of Devil May Cry 5. First up, in regards to spoilers, I'm going to try and keep this review story spoiler free, only showing what they showed in pre-release trailers for the most part. Next up, this isn't a sponsored review. I bought this game because I've been a fan of Devil May Cry since 2001 or whenever the original came out, and I've been waiting for this game for a long time. It's been more than 10 years since the last Devil May Cry game. Crazy to think the entire Souls franchise and Bloodborne have come in that time, huh? But let's get started. Hard and fast facts, I really enjoyed DMC5. Took me around 11 hours to beat on Devil Hunter difficulty. Do I think you should buy it? Yes. And now let's break it down a little more. We'll start with the story, on which I shall strive to be succinct. If you're a fan of Devil May Cry, then you'll get some kicks out of the story, as it references most of the prior games. It even includes things from the old novel and the anime. In a way, there is a slight best of DMC compilation feel to things, but it never feels like it's just endlessly recycling things we've seen already. There's enough new and interesting here. The basic premise is that a strange demonic tree has popped up in Redgrave City and is feeding on the blood of humans, and you need to prevent that. If you're a newcomer to DMC, then the game has you set with a previously on Devil May Cry movie recap thing you can watch. But if you are new, well, you probably won't get as much out of it as veterans will. All in all, the story here is fine. There's some slight questionable things. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's just the right length and it hits some satisfying notes. It's the silly and over-the-top stuff we've come to expect, with the right amount of serious moments. Dante is a goofball as ever. Nero is slightly edgier, but still a goofball. And, well, how silly is the game? Well... Next up, let's talk about the overall presentation and performance of the game. The UI, loading times, menus, all that sort of stuff. For the most part, there's nothing I found lacking whilst playing, but there are quite a lot of loading times between menus. For example, a typical mission will have you load a cutscene, load the menu, wherein you prepare for the mission, choosing, your weapons, items, skills and all that. Then you load another cutscene, and then you load a level. These individual loading times aren't long on PC. I wasn't even playing with the game on my SSD, and load times were rarely more than a few seconds. I didn't even get time to read all the text on the loading screens. That is one minor issue. They could have had, when the loading is complete, press a button to continue. I personally prefer that. Likewise with cutscenes. These days I enjoy it when if you press start during a cutscene it will pause it and let you skip it. In DMC5, if you press start during a cutscene, it just skips it immediately. So there's one slight issue. These loading times, they're not a huge problem, but they do kind of break the flow of things. Cutscenes never lead directly into gameplay, always having black screens between, for example. These aren't really problems, but rather things that can be improved upon if they ever make, say, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition or Devil May Cry 6. Overall, the menu and UI is fine. The game ran smooth as butter for me, all settings maxed out at 1440p. One issue I did have was excessive screen tearing, even with G-Sync. The only way I managed to stop this was putting VSync on, which eliminated the problem, but kind of defeats the point of G-Sync. My only real problem with the game is that it uses Denuvo, I don't know how you pronounce that, Denuvo. It didn't cause me any problems, so far as I'm aware, but I find DRM frustrating because it exists at this point to punish the consumer. If pirates are able to get around DRM, what is the point of it when it means the consumer is buying for a product that is slapping them on the wrist? it makes no sense to me. And there's suggestions and some evidence some people have that the Denovu has performance impacts too. Mostly though, it's the principle of the matter. If you're gonna, I get that people want to protect their game or whatever, but when your protection is only harming the consumer who's paid for the game and not the pirates you're trying to prevent playing it, there's something needs to change there, If your DRM doesn't work, just get rid of it completely. Alright, next up we've got audio. The game has a nice soundtrack. If you've played the other games, you know what to expect. Lots of cheesy rock and metal. The three main musical motifs you'll be hearing throughout the game are Nero, V, and Dante's battle themes, which play into the gameplay too. The higher your style ranking, the more intense becomes the music. Some of the bosses also have great themes of their own that I enjoyed. As for the audio design beyond that, well, you've got English and Japanese voices and I've no issues when it comes to the game's sound. There is very satisfying audio feedback on the attacks and techniques you would expect, which really helps drive home their impact. Landing a perfect guard with Royal Guard feels even more satisfying than it did in Devil May Cry 4. Now we get on to the real meat of the matter. Gameplay. The main reason we come to Devil May Cry. The reason these games are so replayable. They have some of the most satisfying combat you'll find out there in video games. We aren't talking brutal levels of difficulty like Ninja Gaiden or immersive action RPG combat like Dark Souls. Devil May Cry is all about style. Enemies in Ninja Gaiden exist to kill you. They will do their best to end you. Enemies in Devil May Cry exist for you to style upon them with an array of insanely over-the-top moves. The combat is easy to get into, but hard to master. And speaking of difficulty, let's touch on that, shall we? The game starts you off with Human and Devil Hunter. Human is effectively the easy mode, and the game also has an auto mode, which is you can turn that on whether you're in, Human or Devil Hunter, and it just means some combos happen automatically. That said, I would suggest starting off on Devil Hunter because I think I died 3 or 4 times total, all against bosses, and I was very out of practice. Once you beat Devil Hunter, you get Son of Sparda, and then there's Dante Must Die, Heaven or Hell, and Hell or Hell. Dante Must Die is the highest difficulty option normally, with Heaven or Hell and Hell or Hell being more gimmicky. In Heaven or Hell, you and the enemies both die in one hit. In Hell or Hell, it's the same as Dante Must Die, only... can you guess? You die in one hit, enemies don't. Needless to say, there's a lot to do here, especially if you want to get S ranks in every mission. You can take your abilities into higher difficulties once you've unlocked them, and you'll need to play the game more than once to unlock everything. You'll need to play the game probably 2-3 times if you want to unlock every skill. There are 3 playable characters in DMC5, Nero, V, and Dante. It's worth pointing out that Nero and Dante could both carry the entire game by themselves in terms of, gameplay and playstyle. So we have our legendary Devil Hunter, the strongest Devil Hunter, Dante. He is the most complicated of the bunch. Dante carries ranged and melee weapons and is able to swap between them instantly. He also has 4 styles he can, you guessed it, swap between instantly. Swordmaster is focused on melee, Trickster is speed and evasion, Gunslinger is guns, and Royal Guard is about timed blocks and counters. I would say Dante has the highest skill ceiling of the bunch, as there can be a lot to juggle when you have 4 styles and then 4 melee weapons and 4 ranged weapons. But you can also do some really cool things. Dante has a mix of new and returning weapons and feels just as good to play as he was in DMC4. His main new feature, is a powered up Devil Trigger that is effectively a super Devil Trigger with new special ultimate mega attacks. V is our newcomer and he's the easiest to play, that is to say his segments are quite hard to die in, but at the same time he's rather complicated. See, V doesn't actually fight by himself, he has 3 summons that do that for him. He has a bird, which is mapped to one button and does ranged attacks. Then you have a cat, which does melee and is mapped to another. You'll be controlling these 2 in tandem, whilst also moving V around. His 3rd summon is a golem that attacks by itself and expends Devil Trigger. The catch here is your summons can't kill enemies. V will have to teleport in and deal the finishing blow himself. So for the most part it's very easy to play V, but managing two creatures as well as V's movements can involve some good multitasking. Then we have Nero, who was sort of the middle ground. Unlike Dante, he didn't have any weapons beyond his starting sword and gun in DMC4. He also has no styles. New to 5, Nero has Devil Breaker robot arms that you can use to various effects. In essence, think of these as power-ups. Each arm has a different effect, and you can supercharge them to blow up the arm for a strong attack. The only way to swap arms is to destroy the one you are currently using, which can be done manually if you see an arm that you want to pick up and you want to get rid of your current one. Nero is also able to grab enemies from a distance and pull them close, or pull himself close, to larger enemies. Effectively, he has a grappling hook. That isn't to say that Nero has no depth though, because it's definitely there. You can charge his gun to do more damage, and you can rev his unique sword. If you rev it just after an attack with the right timing, you'll charge it up instantly, and this allows you to power up his attacks. So balancing the gun, sword revving and devil breakers gives you a lot to be getting on with. All three characters have a bunch of skills to unlock, which are obtained with red orbs, a currency you get from defeating enemies and exploring the world. There's also blue orbs that increase your total health, which you find in hidden areas or by doing secret missions. And then there's gold orbs, which, likewise, they're hidden. You also get them as a login bonus every day, and for playing with other players with the shadow network play stuff. These allow you to revive where you died. All three characters are fun and unique feeling. Nero and Dante are definitely a little more fleshed out than V, but I enjoyed playing all three of them. Nero and V are more focused with their gameplay, with Dante being a lot more freeform. This is a game that you can play more and more and more and more and increase your skill. It is possible for two different people to both beat the game, but one could be doing so much more than the other. Just compare my gameplay with someone like Bria or anyone else from the True Style tournament videos. The things you can do in this game once you get good enough are insane. I can't do the game justice, especially after only 10 hours. So is there anything bad about the game? Anything I don't like? Well, some of the environments later in the game get a little boring in how generic they are. Visually and graphically, the game looks amazing. The RE engine is doing great work here, but the actual design of some of the last levels, well, I found them boring to look at. Not that it really matters, seeing as you're generally more focused on the enemies, but hey. I also have some slight issues with the story being a bit, wait, what? When it comes to certain motivations, but it's nothing deal-breaking. I tried very hard to keep this review short, because otherwise I'd go on 45 minutes about how much I enjoy the game. But if there's anything I didn't answer in the review, ask it down below and I'll get back to you ASAP. As for me, I loved Devil May Cry 5, and if you enjoy video games I would highly suggest it. I'm really hoping we get some co-op Bloody Palace or something in the future, because it feels like the tools are there for that. The game has, as mentioned, slight network play. Say you're playing a level as V, you might see Nero in the background, and that will often be another player live at the same time. It can also be a ghost replay of when you did that level yourself, or it can be just AI. It's an interesting feature, very unobtrusive, but I hope they build on it and put, special co-op mode in, because I would love that. It was worth the wait for Devil May Cry 5. And now, Dragon's Dogma 2, if you'd be so kind. Until next time, you guys take care, and I'll catch you soon. By the way, next review, Shadows Die Twice.
Woo-wee. Did you just sniff that? Do you have any idea where that's been?
Up your butt?